Okay, have you thought about living in a granny flat, thought about living in an apartment, and the differences between the two? Are they really different? We're going to talk about that this morning, our experience as realtors. Bye.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Well, good morning.
Oh, how are you?
Yeah, well, thank you. Happy Tuesday, Mark, and everyone else.
Happy Tuesday. How's the long weekends, Anthony? You chillaxed?
I did chillax, and Mark and I were just having a quick convo off air saying, do we feel like we need another 2 days? Do you know what? I feel like I do, just so I can achieve things. I've spent the last few days doing absolutely nothing and relaxing, and now I want to actually do stuff.
Do you feel? I feel a little bit guilty.
No,
I feel.
I don't. It was just a nice chance to hit reset, spend some time regrouping and not worrying about a thing.
And that's the long weekend, and that's the long
Yep.
weekend. So, Xanth, this morning's topic about granny flats, and I guess this is great for someone who's looked at that concept of a granny flat, and found it appealing, and thought, I wonder what it would be really like, versus an apartment. You know, apartments in a block of 12, a lot older, solid, and then the appeal of that. And you had two really different experiences. You really put them up back to back. And as experienced as you are, it still surprised you, the old granny flat thing.
It does. And do you know what? When I was first, I always thought granny flats would be such an ideal little place to move into. It is literally like your own little home. You've got your own courtyard patio area, your own entrance that you share with nobody. You upkeep the yard by yourself. It really is your own little home. And so when I moved into my granny flat, I went in with these just unrealistic expectations and idealistic views that it would just be heaven on earth. And the way things unfolded, it was actually so far away from what I had first anticipated that I've ended up moving back into an apartment. And I absolutely love it. So about the granny flat, it was in suburbia for one, so the location didn't really agree with me. It was in a sleepy little Northern Beaches suburb, away from pubs, society life, beaches, that kind of hustle and bustle culture. So the location itself wasn't ideal. The internal finishes of the granny flat were also very cheaply made and poorly put together. So the walls didn't have any brick between them. It was just gyprock. So when my room was adjacent to my housemate's room, I could literally hear absolutely everything she was doing in her bedroom, from having a conversation to putting things in and out of the wall, to various other things like that. So there was no sense of privacy there as well. Not only from my housemate, but also having the landlords being able to constantly watch, surveil, and monitor what we're doing, the ins and outs of life itself like that. Feeling like you're so constantly watched and just being judged all the time also wasn't a very great experience either.
And for anyone who doesn't know Anthony, you're pretty out there. You're a pretty liberal person, so you really wouldn't give a shit about much. But it did knock you around, eh?
I think just that the whole thing coupled together with the location, the lack of privacy from my housemate, and feeling like I was being so constantly watched and monitored by the landlords, who would literally film us going in and out of the property to keep us on track with what we're doing. It wasn't a great experience for me. And look, I'm sure other granny flats may be better, but I personally wouldn't choose to move into another one anytime soon.
Because I guess if it's a granny flat, they've been built in the last 5 or 10 years. Generally, a lot of these granny flats, the building quality is probably pretty good in terms of it's going to stand up a long time, but it's not. It's certainly not they don't build stuff like they used to. So when they're doing the kitchens and bathrooms are good, but probably the lining, like you're saying, the gyprocking and insulation and stuff is different. So Xanth, what did you go to? So we're pipping a granny flat, pipping it up against an apartment. What sort of apartment did you go to?
I've gone to a 2-bedroom apartment in Freshwater, so close to the beach, close to civilization, to the shops, to everything. So the location is much nicer. It's a top floor apartment with a large wraparound balcony. I do have views over towards Manly and Freshy Beach as well. It's in another boutique block, or a boutique block, so there are 8 apartments there in total. I can't hear a thing beneath me. I can't hear a thing that's happening in the room next door to me. So it is quite private in the way of I don't have many other apartment blocks around me looking in. I can't hear what's happening in my housemate's bedroom, nor can I hear anybody accessing the apartment going in or out, really. So
when someone gets home or someone leaves.
Yeah, I can't hear any of that.
So there's a little bit in there for full brick, and if people don't know what full brick is, that the outside wall boundary of the property has two skins of brick, so two it's like brick, cavity brick outside, and then the inside walls are brick, whereas a lot of these granny flats are built in lightweight construction, so it's timber, and outside of that timber wall is clad, which is cladding on the outside, which is like a skinny composite, and then on the inside it's gyprock. So very different construction, I guess.
Yeah, look, definitely. And I don't need heaps of bells and whistles. I don't need to have a lift or have a pool or have views or anything like that. I think it's just more a sense of being comfortable, having that little sense of privacy and being happy where you are. Home is where the heart is at the end of the day. And I found my clique, I found my suburb, and I wouldn't have been able to move into where I am now, having not gone through that granny flat experience. So everything does happen for a reason, and I needed to experience granny flat life for me to realize it's not for me, only to find this next rental property that came up and ticks all of my boxes.
So I like the words you use, granny flat life. We do have to isolate that granny flats are sort of all through the suburbs, whereas apartments are generally concentrated in more built-up areas. So places like DY, places like Freshwater, they are built up, they're busier. Do you find it harder for parking?
You know what, I actually do. That is one negative. Parking has been a bit of a shit show from time to time, and I'll end up parking in either the visitor spot, which I shouldn't do. I'll openly admit to that, or I'll have to park a couple of streets away and just walk up to the apartment. And
shopping?
Easy, very easy. I've got the local IGA, literally like a 5-minute walk away. I can go there, pick up the majority of my essentials, and then walk home.
So there you go, guys. So houses versus granny flats. In summary, I think you tried suburb life, and it didn't work. It may work for some, I guess. If you've got a little baby on the way and stuff, you'll enjoy that. That sort of, you know what I mean? Like, I guess if it's like a small family, you sort of go, well, I wouldn't mind going to the burbs a little bit more. But I think the fundamental difference that I've seen here is you've gone from granny flat suburbia to high density lifestyle suburb, Freshwater, and then also the actual other things I'm hearing from you, which is there to teach people, is just that difference in build quality. A lot of people think, yeah, whatever, doesn't matter. But practically, when you're living in a place for that noise and people coming and going, that the way a property was built really does matter.
It really does impact your life. Don't overlook those things, is what I would say. When I first went and checked the granny flat out, I did notice that the walls were very thin, but I didn't have the foresight to tell that it would cause such a bit of an issue between my living situation with me and my housemate.
One more question. Climatically, using aircon more, using aircon less, don't need aircon heaters. Did you notice the difference in that sort of granny flat life, apartment life? Was it a bit more sort of solid?
I haven't had air conditioning at either, so I'm out of the air conditioning field. In terms of the granny flat, it was really easy to heat up. Everything was tiled, every floor surface was tiled, so I just chucked a heater on and it would heat up quite quickly. Whereas where I'm at now in an apartment, it's getting warmer, which is good. However, in terms of cooling it down, to be determined. Let's revisit this in the next couple of months and see how I go with this apartment and trying to keep cool.
Boom, granny flats versus house, guys. Anthony, thank you very much for dissecting it for us today.
Anytime, here to answer any and every question.
See you, legend.
Have a good day, guys.
Bye.
Bye.